We are back. We are finally back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jordan Simone Show. I'm Jordan Simone. It's been a while. I've missed you all. It's good to be back. The reason I wanted to come back is because I love talking ASU football, and everybody I see, no matter where it is, wants to talk ASU football. So I figured, why not just start a podcast so that everybody can hear me talk about what we love the most, the Devils, sports betting, different lines, some NFL, but it's going to be mostly based around Arizona State football. I'm really excited to be back. But where have I been? It's been a while since I was let go of my position with ASU football on the radio back in 2021, which I've really not publicly discussed. There's been some comments from time to time from, being on different podcasts or radios or whatever it may be. But I thought, you know what, let's back up a little bit and I'll give you the real rundown, what I've been up to, and then we can dive into to ASU football and some of the big games coming up this weekend in college football. Back in 2021, I was in my fourth year with Arizona State football, having just finished up as a player in 2017, dove into the radio broadcast on the sideline, and absolutely loved it. Great experience to stick around the team that I love and the game that I love, and still knew a lot of the players, and was fortunate to be welcomed in by some of the coaches and the people in the program. But I went on a podcast midweek in 2021 and made some comments that were not liked by the athletic director at the time, Ray Anderson. And look, the whole experience of the comments that I made, which were not, I was just being a little bit too critical of the team. I was treated like a son, in that program, and they always took great care of me. I think it was just jarring for them to hear me speak negatively about them in the position I was in. So there definitely was a learning experience there for me, but what I said, it's funny, I haven't even really looked back, on what I said all those years ago, 4 years ago now. And I was just reading through an article from what I said, and one of my comments was here is, it ain't working. It was a good experiment. And you know what? No disrespect to any of those coaches as men and as people, because I've talked to a lot of them and I know a lot of them. They're good people and good human beings, but it just ain't working. And the fans deserve better. These players deserve better. And these players don't even realize that they're being coached so poorly. So that was one of my comments in the podcast that I believe, ultimately ended my radio dreams with Arizona State football. And so here, that leads me to here. I've been, I haven't been doing it for 4 years. I've been building a business in the commercial insurance space, and it's going great. I actually love what I do. I know it doesn't sound like it's that fun, but it really is. But yeah, weird time back in 2021 with Herm Edwards and Ray Anderson at the helm. You think back to that team and who was on that team. Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman Trophy. Ricky Pearsall, who was a first overall or first round receiver transferred to Florida. Brandon Ayuk, who is now who was a first round receiver to the 49ers, still playing in the NFL. You had a running back go to Ohio State, an offensive lineman go to Michigan, another receiver go to Florida State. And I just remember back in that time being so high on that team and going, this could be the best team that ASU's ever had. They had so much talent on that team. But as the season went on, you started to realize how poorly coached they were. And I think my comments at that time just struck a chord with the athletic department, with the coaching staff. And it was just not good timing for them to hear the truth. They also had NCAA investigations looming at that time. So I think it's, again, just too close to home, somebody that's in the locker room, occasionally. I was treated well by them, and then, I think they kind of felt like I stabbed them in the back by saying that stuff. So again, lesson learned from me. Yes, it was the truth. Yes, it hurt for them to hear. And yes, it was, an experience that I've learned and grown from. And I don't know that it, if it soured my my feelings towards broadcasting. I've always loved this. This has always been a passion of mine, is talking football, with my buddies or, with anybody that I meet out, even my family. My wife, she doesn't like to hear it, but I still will give it to her. But all leads me back to this, starting up the podcast again and getting back into the mix. Again, going to be covering, Arizona State football week by week, the game before, the game coming up. Some NFL games of the week, Cardinals talk, of course, and then everybody, in their 20s and 30s, we love betting on football, don't we? So I'll be talking some betting lines as well. So it's exciting. I'm excited to be back, and I appreciate every one of you for tuning in to hear my thoughts and opinions. So I'm just going to dive right in. I want to talk about the Devils and, obviously coming off one of the biggest seasons in program history last year with Skattebo, the legend, who's now crushing it with the Giants, and just where we are. I think there was a lot of, obviously there's huge expectations on this football team going into this year after, almost beating Texas and getting an opportunity to go to the semifinals before the national championship was an insane year. What a special season for all of us as ASU fans and people here in Arizona. The excitement was just palpable and something that I'll never forget, especially going to that Big 12 championship game. What an experience. But now here we are, new seasons, a lot of similar faces on that football team. We didn't lose too many coaches. So you have virtually the same team without Cam Skattebo, which has shown early that, it doesn't matter how many guys you return, it's going to be tough. It's tough to repeat what they did last year. They've started the season 2-1. They play NAU, look really sloppy, a lot of penalties. And we go, okay, look, it was a glorified scrimmage against a team that you should wax. It was a little sloppy, a little too close. Jordan Tyson is legit. That's one thing I've walked away from every game going, whoa, that kid's special. He's a first rounder, probably a top 10 pick. Then you go to the Mississippi State game the next week, and it was more of the same. They came out super flat in the first half. A lot of penalties. Just uncharacteristic of a Kenny Dillingham football team. But then they come back out that second half of that game, make it a game. Yes, there's some questionable calls. You talk about the, fourth down on their, on the goal line of Mississippi State. You punch it in, make it really difficult for them to score. They elect to go for the field goal, go up by 3. Kick the ball back off to Mississippi State, and then we call a blitz. I forget what down it was, maybe third down. We call a blitz. The safety trips over a guy, doesn't hit home. They send one more, and it doesn't get there. He trips. 4 or 5 seconds later, you got a touchdown, Mississippi State, the band's playing, and ASU loses. Just an unbelievable way, just a kick in the gonads, if you know what I mean, to see them lose that way after a game where they probably should have skated by. And last year, that's what they did. They would win those tight games. Fast forward to the next week against Baylor. Again, not perfect, but much better than they were. So they're showing that's the signs of improvement. I think better from NAU to Mississippi State, better from Mississippi State to Baylor. They were able to be +3 in the turnover margin and won by 3. Now I know it wasn't perfect and I know it wasn't pretty. The red zone offense was not great, and some of the play calling down there was you could question it. But at the end of the day, they got the win. And Baylor's a good football team. They beat SMU. They came back and beat SMU. They're going to be a team in this conference that's going to win some games. So all that to say, I think if this team can just keep getting better every single week, they'll have a chance, right? And no bigger test than this week against TCU on Friday. But before we get into that, I want to go through a couple of the bigger games here in college football that I'm excited about and make some picks. So I'll get to that TCU game in a minute because it is definitely going to be one on Friday night that is going to be rocking in Tempe. I mean, that place is going to be off the charts. I can't wait to get to that game. A great team coming to Tempe. Before we get into that, there are a lot of big games this Saturday. A lot of college football games that are really exciting. And let's just dive right on into it. So you got number 4 LSU versus number 13 Ole Miss. Ole Miss is getting 1.5. And I don't know if you guys saw this whole deal with Lane Kiffin's daughter is dating the starting middle linebacker for LSU, Whit Weeks. Landry Kiffin is her name. And on the Monday of a game week, she decides to post a picture announcing to the world that they're dating. So Lane Kiffin's daughter is dating the starting linebacker for LSU. And I already saw Lane tweet, the over will hit here. So you heard it here. I believe it's 53 or something like that. I got to look it up. But just a hilarious back and forth with Lane Kiffin, the head coach, wrapped up in his daughter, who she's dating, on the team the week of. Just antics here. But Ole Miss is a good football team. I think people are kind of overlooking them in the SEC. LSU's obviously had some wins early that have been exciting for that program, off of expectations that weren't extremely high, but they've rattled off some wins. So I'm going to roll with Ole Miss here, -1.5. I think Lane Kiffin will get these boys rolling, and I think he's going to attack the middle linebacker, get him on some little RPOs, drag him up, dump one behind his head. I think you're going to see a statement here from Lane Kiffin, the old father-in-law to Whit Weeks. All right, going to the next game. You got number 6 Oregon at number 3 Penn State. I mean, this is a college football national championship implication game right here. Penn State's favored -3.5, and the over is 52.5. And look, I love Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning was actually a coach at ASU when I was there back in 2014 and 2013. Excuse me. I have nothing but great memories of him. I was on the scout team. I was a red shirt in 2013, so I was fortunate to spend quite a bit of time with Coach Lanning, just because he wasn't, position coach at that time. And it's just been so cool to see his run with Oregon. And how can you not love, watching Lanning, the way he speaks about his team, about the family environment that they have. And the Ducks have looked good. They haven't had a super difficult schedule. They played Oregon State last week, which is a big rivalry, of course, in state, compared to Penn State that has played nobody. I mean, they're blowing teams out by 40, 50, and these are no-name teams. So they really haven't been tested. Now, again, they've got a lot of people returning from that team last year. So this is, like I said, college football, playoff implications here early in the season for both these teams, and a true road test for Oregon to go to a very tough place to play in Penn State. But again, I'm going to rock with Oregon. I think that they can score. They play great defense. They've got athletes all over that field, and I think that they've got a bad taste in their mouth from last year in the playoffs. So excited for that game. Can't wait to watch that. But give me the Ducks to cover. I think +3.5 is easy. I think they'll win that game outright. So excited to watch that. And then you got number 17 Bama at number 5 Georgia. Man, Georgia barely squeaks by Tennessee at Tennessee. What a gutsy road win that was for Kirby Smart and his guys. You got Kalen DeBoer in Alabama, have had some struggles, but kind of showing that they can pop back a little bit. So excited to see how Alabama reacts to a huge rivalry here with Georgia. But I'll take the Dogs -2.5. All right, this ain't going to be a super long podcast, episode 1. We're just diving back into it. Everybody calm down. Everybody relax. Arizona State taking on number 25 TCU at home Friday, 6 p.m. I will be in attendance. I will be in the nosebleed suites with my boys. Having a few cocktails, probably more than that, just depending on how the game goes. I'm coming straight in from a member guest golf tournament. It's going to be a hell of a weekend. And you got Ryder Cup on top of that. I mean, it's going to be a special weekend. Apologies to my wife, as I will not be around much. I love you, sweetheart. Here we go. All right, ASU Open is 2.5 favorites at home. I think it makes sense. I think there is a real home field advantage for ASU, especially with the heat. Now TCU in Texas, they're not afraid of the heat by any means. But looking at the weather, it's actually not. I think it looks like it's supposed to rain, so it's going to be probably 85, 90. Be a fun game. I think, TCU's quarterback, Josh Hoover, he's looked like one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the Big 12, but in the country. He leads the country in passing yards per game right now with 333 through the first 3 games, 333 yards passing a game. He can move in the pocket. He kind of reminds me of Levitt. He looks like if Levitt was just calmer in the pocket. That's who he kind of reminds me of. And TCU's got it rolling right now. I mean, they're able to score. Their defense has not been perfect, but I think this is a great matchup. You got 2 of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, and Levitt and Hoover. You got 2 great receivers in Tyson, and I forget the kid's name from TCU. I'll have to look that up, but he's I think he's number 1 or number 4. He's been electric. I mean, he catches the ball on a slant and takes it to the crib. I've seen a couple highlights of that. I think the keys to this game for ASU is going to be obviously their passing defense. They've got to keep everything in front of them. The way that you lose football games is by giving up those long touchdowns, long throws, over the top where you're getting beat, and you send a blitz. And I'm very familiar with this. Is you blitz too many guys, it gets picked up. The blitz doesn't get home, and then you got to try to guard a guy for 4 seconds, and it's just a race to the end zone. So I think TCU is going to be licking their chops, watching the film, seeing ASU get beat on these long touchdowns early. But I expect our defensive coordinator to be prepared for this. Keep everybody in front of you. Don't let's not get overly aggressive here. Let's make them run the football, stop the run. And then offensively, let's run the football, man. Let's control the clock, bleed it out. That's what Kenny likes to do. They want to control the possession, keep Hoover and that electric TCU offense off the field. But let's try to get up early, get the crowd involved. It's going to be a packed house. Man, what is this game score going to be? I'm going to go Devils. I think the Devils are going to win. And I think we're going to see the best version of them. So far, it seems like ASU has just played up to the level of their competition. They know TCU is legit. They know they've got a big opportunity here to make some headlines, get back into the top 25 with a win here over number 25 TCU. So I'm going to say ASU. I'm going to go ASU 41, TCU 35. I think it's going to be close, but I think it's going to feel like one of those games where it's kind of back and forth, and then ASU will control it. I think you're going to need a turnover or 2. Obviously, got to take care of the football. In any of these big-time games with good teams, it always comes down to the turnover margin. If they can be +3 like they were last week, I love our chances. So give me the Devils, of course. Yes, I'm a homer. Yes, I love ASU. I don't care. Big one here Friday night, and that place is going to be rocking. All right, final thoughts here on the very first episode of the Jordan Simone Show. As we continue to put out episodes, I promise that things are going to get better and better. We'll have some clips eventually. We'll have some video. I'll be taking some questions from people on Twitter or fans or whoever it is. But some final thoughts here is, number 1, Skattebo is an absolute monster for the Giants. Are you kidding me? I mean, the guy was electric out of the backfield. If you didn't bet on him over yards and a touchdown, I feel bad for you. It was meant to be. I mean, the fix was in. It was Skattebo's night. Everyone in America knew it. He's America's running back. He's a former Devil. And I could not be more excited for that kid. I mean, he's very deserving, and he's just so damn hard to tackle. I think that's the thing that's always been surprising for people is, would it transition, right? Would it transition from college to the NFL where he's breaking these tackles? And so far it's held true. I mean, his first catch in the NFL, he blows up 2 guys and runs over another. This week on Monday night, he scores a touchdown. Or Sunday night, scores a touchdown. The first touch, he's bouncing out to the left. I mean, it's just exciting football to watch. And now you got Jackson Dart starting with him, which makes me think the future of the NFL is in New York with Jackson Dart, and Cam Skattebo. And I was always big on Dart coming out of Ole Miss. So I think Giants fans, you got something to smile about here. Poor Russell Wilson, my old teammate for a brief minute in Seattle, was leading the league in passing and got benched because they're 0-3. But I'll tell you one thing about Russell Wilson is he's as high character as a guy as you can find. I think that he'll be a great mentor for Jackson and teach him how to be a professional. That's what I would expect out of him. And then lastly, you got Cards Seahawks Thursday night in Glendale. What is going on with Marvin Harrison Jr.? This guy's hands, he's got frying pans for hands. I feel bad for him. He'll figure it out. I mean, hit the jugs machine all day, get those things back, get some confidence, and then Kyler Murray, man, just still running around. I've got flashbacks of Texas A&M when Kyler Murray came into the game and I went, who the heck is this guy? Okay, he won some games in Texas high school, great. And then he gets in the game and runs for 40 yards out of nowhere in one play, and you're like, okay, this guy's legit. Then went on to win the Heisman, and now is struggling in the NFL. So he's got a lot to prove. Card's got a lot to prove. And then you look at the Seahawks, my team. I'm from Seattle. Spent had a cup of coffee with the Seahawks before I blew out my ACL and hurt everything else. They're firing. I mean, Sam Darnold looks to be confident, looks to be the same guy from Minnesota, and he's got a defense that supports them that's legit. So I didn't look up the spread for this game. I would imagine it's tight. I'm sure the Cardinals are getting a half point or a point just because they're at home. But this is always a battle, always a great game. I'm going to ride with the Seahawks here. Sorry, I know that people in Arizona listening right now don't love that, but I just haven't been convinced that Kyler Murray is the guy. However, Trey McBride is the guy. He's the best tight end in the NFL. I mean, he's the future of that position. I think as Travis Kelce gets older, you got your boy from the 49ers. As they get older, it just looks more and more like Trey McBride looks better. So love Trey McBride and what he's able to do. I'm sure the Seahawks will be game planning around, trying to stop him, but good luck. That dude's a beast. He can also hit the golf ball a frickin' mile. All right, that's it for the first ever Jordan Simone show. I appreciate all of you stopping in to listen. I hope you enjoyed. If you could do me a favor, subscribe to this podcast, like it. I'm going to post it. Please share it. And again, appreciate all of you. Let me know if you want to hear about anything else going into next week. Go Devils. Go Skattebo. What a beast. Have a great week and be safe out there.